On today's show, you'll see that Cleveland Browns defensive coordinator interviews are coming in hot. We've got 6 candidates already that the Browns are interviewing. We're going to go through each one on today's show, and I'll tell you what you need to know about them. And what I saw in the Super Bowl, it tells me that this DC hire is more crucial than ever. Mike Macdonald, the Seahawks head coach, is a mastermind, drawing up disguises, rotations on that Seattle defense, and they looked unstoppable. Without Jim Schwartz, I see now it's imperative that the Browns get the right DC here in Cleveland. So I'll tell you everything you need to know, and then we'll have a Deshaun Watson update at the end of the show, a legal update for Watson. So stick around. I give you all the news when it comes to the Cleveland Browns, and that's why you hit that subscribe button, because Browns are making moves daily, ladies and gentlemen. Gear up for this offseason. They're always up to something, and it's my job to tell you what that is. So hit that subscribe button, and welcome into the Browns Report. I am your host, Joey O'Donohue, and I say without further ado, we get into the first candidate for the Cleveland Browns, and that is the fact that they have requested to interview Panthers defensive pass game coordinator Jonathan Cooley for their DC job. Koulie was requested by Jacksonville last cycle as well before they ultimately went with Anthony Campanelli. Let's talk a little bit about Jonathan Cooley. He actually is an Ohio native, ladies and gentlemen. Grew up in Columbus, and then he coached at the University of Akron, the Zips, and then spent some time with the Rams as their quality control coach and defensive backs coach. And then, as you saw most recently, he has been with the Carolina Panthers from 2023 till now. Now, another interesting thing about Koulie is he coached up Jalen Ramsey to be a Pro Bowler. When Ramsey was having his best years with the Rams, that was with Koulie there as the DB coach. And then, of course, J.C. Horn made a Pro Bowl as well with Carolina. Ramsey has not been the same player since leaving L.A. So, bit of kudos to Koulie there. And the Carolina defense, we've got some stats here for you about Koulie and what he's done in Carolina. That secondary and cornerbacks coach in 2023, Cooley's group allowed just 171.5 passing yards per game, the third lowest in the league. The secondary also improved both their completion percentage and passer rating allowed from the previous season, while ranking in the top 10 in touchdown passes allowed and yards per attempt allowed. Now, another thing that's going to be very crucial here when talking about the Browns' defensive scheme, right? So what do the Panthers do? Well, they're technically a 3-4. But there's a lot of shifts, okay? They go into a 4-3, sometimes a 5-1 based on down and distance, all right? They run a lot of zone too. So it's very different from the Cleveland Browns. And we know Todd Monken wants to keep the Browns system. He was very adamant about that in his press conference, basically says, I don't want to touch that side of the ball. They looked great last year. I'm here to revamp the offense, right? And again, Cleveland thought they'd be able to keep Schwartz to really not touch that side of the ball, but now here they are interviewing DC candidates, and so that Panther scheme, a little bit different, and that's the thing when you talk about external candidates. But I do think Koulie is worth an interview just because of some of those numbers I showed you, and I don't think we should completely disregard external candidates here, right? There's a lot that have had a lot of success in the league. Let's bring them in. Let's talk to them, and we're also going to talk about some internal guys here on the latter half of the show. Ian Rapoport has another update for us, though. It's a busy day for Aubrey Pleasant, the Rams' assistant head coach and pass game coordinator, meeting with the Cardinals, and he will interview with the Browns for their DC job this afternoon as well. What's funny about Aubrey Pleasant is when he got his start in the NFL, he was with the Cleveland Browns as an intern, a head coach intern, that is. And so it would be a really full circle moment if Pleasant came back to be our DC here now for however many years to come. But Pleasant has been pretty experienced since being a Browns intern, had a stint with Washington as the defensive quality control coach. He also worked for the Rams as their cornerback coach, specifically worked in Detroit, Green Bay as a consultant, and then, as I showed you most recently for the past couple of years, he's actually been the assistant head coach to Sean McVay and a pass game coordinator on defense for the LA Rams. I think what stands out most to me about Pleasant's experience that you see is the promotions that he continued to get, right? LA most recently promoting him to assistant head coach. When he joined there in 2023, he did not have that title. And so I like that people are realizing this about Pleasant. I think if you're in the Rams system, that's a positive sign to me. And Chris Shula was getting some head coach looks as well in this cycle. Now, you want to talk scheme a little bit real quick? Rams also don't run a 4-3. You're getting kind of rare to find candidates that do what Jim Schwartz was doing with the wide 9-4-3 scheme that was pretty aggressive. But it is considered, quote-unquote, a hybrid 3-4. So they also will switch things up, disguise looks, okay? And I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing, like I said, to have external candidates in the building, talk through different things here. You know, it's not like we won a bunch of games with Jim Schwartz, but our defense was top 5 last year, so no doubt about that. Mary Kay confirmed the 2 interviews that I just told you guys about, but also adds another one. The Giants, Charlie Bullen, is getting an interview with the Cleveland Browns, and then mentions the information that I already told you guys about Pleasant and Koulie. A little bit about Charlie Bullen and his experience. Kind of was going back and forth from college to the NFL, and then joining the NFL to be the Miami Dolphins defensive assistant, and was there for about 6 years. Also worked on the Cardinals staff as a linebacker coach. Then took another run at college for Illinois and joined the New York Giants in 2024 and actually became their interim defensive coordinator just this last season. So you can officially say that he has DC experience. And I talked to our Giants host here at Chat Sports, and he said that Bullen did a solid job taking over for the New York Giants and, quote, better than the other guy. It also comes from the Vance Joseph tree, and Joseph was getting head coach looks this year for sure, and that Broncos defense was elite. So Bullen, an external candidate that now has officially been a DC. Take a look at that for Cleveland. I'll let you know who gets more interviews and what direction they start to go to. But before we get to those other candidates, you tell me, do you think it's a good idea that the Browns hire externally? Or should we stay in the building, just promote someone who was on our staff last year with a top 5 defense? Type E for an external hire, type I for internal. Get a letter in that comment section down below. You tell me, Browns fans, where you think they should lean. Coming up, got 3 more DC interviews for the Browns on their plate already. Like I said, they're getting after this thing. And then a Deshaun Watson update for you guys on the back half of the show. But before we dive into the more news for the Brownies, let's give a special shout out to our sponsor, and that is Prize Picks. Shoot your shot on Prize Picks and get $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5. That's right, Prize Picks is now giving you $50 in lineups when you sign up and play your first $5. Prize Picks makes every dunk, every dime, every board that much more exciting. So don't miss this chance to get started on America's #1 app for sports picks. I got the app, and I've been playing it ever since. Been picking the more on Luka every week. He has not let me down. Make sure to check if Prize Picks is available in your state today. It probably is. They are available in 50 states. Prize Picks is simple to play. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections. If you get your picks right, you could cash in. Pick from all your favorite sports, anything from basketball, baseball, hockey, UFC, soccer, college basketball, tennis, golf, esports, and more. Join millions of users and sign up for America's #1 sports picks app. Let's talk Cleveland basketball all of a sudden. Our new guy, James Harden, more than 6.5 assists tonight, and Jamal Murray, more than 23.5 points. You can make lineups just like this one if you download the Prize Picks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS. Get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It is good to be right. How about another external candidate? Jeremy Fowler telling us that the Browns have requested to interview Falcons defensive pass game coordinator Mike Ruttenberg for their DC job. Ruttenberg was actually a finalist, the #2, for the Titans DC job that ended up going to Gus Bradley. A little bit more about Ruttenberg. He worked with the Jags, the Niners, Jets, Falcons most recently. What's interesting about those teams is that he has a long history of working with Robert Saleh. Saleh, to me, you talk about the offensive tree you want to be a part of, McVay, Shanahan. I'm starting to think Saleh might be that defensive tree you want to be a part of. What I saw from him in San Francisco last season, beating that Philadelphia Eagles team in the playoffs, upsetting them with so many injuries on that Niners defense, was impressive, and I think Saleh deserves the head coach job that he got. So, any ties you have to him, you're good in my book defensively. Tom Pelissero confirming that the Browns interviewed Ephraim Banda and our linebacker coach Jason Tarver for their DC job. If you guys have been real ones keeping up with the videos, I told you Cleveland's going to look at these two specifically internally. Officially, they are doing so per Tom Pelissero. Banda's experience Hasn't been a DC in the NFL, but he actually has DC experience in college, as we've talked about. Co-DC at Miami, Utah State. He was a defensive coordinator and safeties coach, and he's been with the Browns since 2023 as our safeties coach, but a key part in Grant Delpit's development and nearly all pro season here. Jason Tarver, linebacker coach. We talked a little bit about him as well. He actually has been a DC in the National Football League for the Las Vegas Raiders from 2012 to 2014, then went to be the linebacker coach for the 49ers, 2015 and 2017. Took a jump in college as a DC, and he's back. Been with the Browns since 2020. So older guy. I do think there would be some familiarity, but I'm a little bit up and down when you talk about an internal candidate because we know Monken wants to keep the system, right? Both guys would help keep that scheme. I like that idea because you're not changing anything. But a lot of people are playing devil's advocate and saying, well, would there be resentment if you keep somebody that was on Jim Schwartz's staff, right? I'm sure all these guys wanted Schwartz to stay. But the way I look at it, these guys would be happy to get an opportunity to get a big promotion here, especially Tarver or Banda. Banda getting a first-time shot as a DC in the NFL, I think it's something he would revel in and work hard for. So that's the easiest way to keep the scheme and keep moving here is if you promote internally, and those two are the internal candidates for your Cleveland Browns. Let's give the official Deshaun Watson update here for you guys. The final two massage cases against Watson were quietly dismissed by the plaintiffs on the Friday before the Super Bowl. Both were headed to trial in February or March, but officially those have been dropped and dismissed. So, quote-unquote, Watson is clear of legal issues and legal trouble now. And officially, you could say of the 27 cases, 24 of them ended with confidential settlements. One of them was withdrawn. All of these civil cases, none went to criminal court, but all of them were civil cases in regards to sexual misconduct by Deshaun Watson. Tony Busby, the attorney that famously has been involved in 26 of these 27 cases, had a simple statement. Case is settled. That's all I can say about it. That's the last case, so that ends my involvement with Deshaun Watson's litigation. It's official, ladies and gentlemen. Normally when I give the news, I will ask your guys' opinion or I'll give a take. I don't really want to do that. Just report this and make this quick for you guys. Obviously, when the Browns traded for Watson, Houston had reached 30 settlements with different plaintiffs. And the Browns still went out and gave him $230 million guaranteed. Watson denied those allegations. The NFL looked into it and still decided to suspend him for 11 games. After all that, all these years, officially the last two have been dropped. So just wanted to give you guys that news. I know it's an unfortunate note to end the show on, but shows that anything that happens with the Browns, I will keep you in the loop about it, even if it is legal issues. Hopefully there's no more of those. So that's why you hit that subscribe button, because every day Browns are up to something, and I got you covered with what it is. Totally free to join the Dog Pound family. If you're a diehard Browns fan, hit that sub button, and I'll see you tomorrow with another video.